She thought she'd finally rebuilt her life, until an obituary appeared on a screen and froze her in front of everyone. Not just any obituary, her mother's. And the only person who saw her break was a billionaire who'd been watching her closer than she realized. I ran out of that house the night everything broke. The dishes, my voice, and the last little piece of love I had left for my mother. I remember the sound first. A plate hitting the floor, shattering into pieces. Then my mother screaming my name like a curse. Amara! Her voice cut straight through my spine. Look what you've done! Do you see what you've done to this house? I hadn't dropped the plate. My little brother had. He was the one standing there with his eyes wide, his fingers still trembling over the edge of the table. But her eyes weren't on him. They were on me. They were always on me. Why are you just standing there? She snapped. Clean it up. You're the oldest, act like it. You want to eat in a pigsty? Mom, I didn't... Did I ask you who did it? She cut in, stepping closer. If you were watching them like you're supposed to, it wouldn't have happened. You want me to have high blood pressure and die in this house, Abby. Is that what you want? My brother whispered. Mummy, I'm sorry, it was me. Keep quiet, she snapped at him without looking away from me. Your sister knows better. Her words hit harder than the broken pieces on the floor. I bent down to pick up the shards. The tiles were cold under my bare knees, my hands shaking as I tried not to cut myself. Grease from dinner still clung to the stove. The sink was full. The light was flickering. Same house. Same noise. Same blame. Move faster, Abeg, she said, folding her arms. You always look tired. For what? You think you're the only first daughter in this world? I swallowed whatever was rising in my throat. The sting at the back of my eyes, the anger, the shame. Okay, Mom, I whispered. She mimicked my voice, high-pitched and mocking. Okay, Mom. You like to talk like victim. You don't bring money. You don't solve anything. You just complain and cry. I froze. I wasn't crying. Not yet. But she saw something in my face and smiled the way only a narcissistic parent can smile, like she'd found the softest part of me and decided to press down on it. If you leave this house tomorrow, she said, her voice dropping, these children will suffer. I will suffer. And it will be your fault, you understand? My chest tightened. I'm not going anywhere, I said quietly. She scoffed. Good. Because where will you go? Who wants a girl who can't even keep her mother alive and happy? That line, that one right there, stayed with me for years. I picked up the last shard and dropped it in the black plastic bucket. My hands smelled like soap and old stew. My knees ached, my head pounded. My little sister peeked from the doorway, school uniform half-buttoned. Amara, she whispered, Mummy says you should iron my clothes. I'm late. Of course she did. Of course I should. I stood up slowly, wiped my wet palms on my faded shorts and tried to swallow the lump in my throat before it turned into tears. Okay, I said again. I'll do it. But in my head, something else whispered back. Who irons your clothes, Amara? Who takes care of you? I didn't answer that voice. Not that night. Not until everything finally snapped. Because here's the truth I'm about to tell you. I was the first daughter in a black, financially struggling, overworked family, and in my mother's eyes, I wasn't a child. I was free labor. I was emotional storage. I was the one she could break without consequence. And the night I finally ran out of that house, I honestly believed I was a monster for leaving her behind. I thought I was abandoning my family. I thought I was killing my mother with my absence. What I didn't know was that the next time I'd hear her name spoken out loud, it would be in the same sentence as the word obituary. If you're still with me, and any of this already feels a little too familiar, take a breath with me And before we go back to where it really started, that early morning in our tiny kitchen, hit subscribe, tap like, and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like the invisible first child holding everyone together, because this is my story, and maybe it's a little bit yours too. I woke up before the sun, like always. Not because I was an early person, but because if I didn't get up first, the whole house would start the day falling apart. The kitchen was already warm. A single bulb buzzed overhead like it was tired too. I tied my hair back, grabbed the pan, and started frying eggs before anybody else even opened their eyes. I barely got 2 minutes in before it started. Amara! My brother's voice cracked through the hallway. Where's my white shirt? The one for assembly day. I can't find it. I didn't look up from the stove. It's ironed and hanging behind your door. Look again. A pause. It's not there. I breathed out slowly. Check behind your towel. A beat. Oh, okay. I shook my head. Every single morning felt like a fire drill, except I was the only firefighter. Then my sister came stumbling into the kitchen, dragging her backpack like it weighed more than she did. Amara, the water didn't boil. How am I supposed to do my hair? I opened the pot. Steam rolled out. It boiled, I said. I turned it off so it wouldn't overheat. She blinked at me. Oh, can you? Yes, I said quietly. I'll do your hair. Because who else was going to? I plated her food fast, poured her juice, then sat her between my knees in the living room, braiding her hair in the quick, neat parts I'd mastered years ago. Ow, you're pulling too hard. I'm not, I murmured, but it hurts. I bit down the apology sitting on my tongue. I was still braiding when I heard the familiar shuffle of slippers. Then her voice. My mother. She walked in like a storm cloud, taking one look around the room and immediately finding something to be disappointed in. Amara, why are those dishes still in the sink? I answered without looking up. I just started cooking. And you can't wash dishes and cook at the same time? She cut in. You think I didn't do all that at your age? You girls today are so slow. That word stung more than I ever admitted. I'll wash them, I said softly. You should have already done them, she snapped. Why do I have to repeat myself every morning? My sister tried to help. She's doing my hair, Mom. Don't talk back to me, my mother said sharply. Eat your breakfast. Then she looked at me again, always at me. Finish her hair and get those dishes done, and make sure the uniform's dry. Or you want her going to school looking like no one takes care of her? No, Mom, I whispered. She stood by the stove, tasted the eggs I made, and frowned like I'd offended her personally. Too much salt. I didn't put any salt in yet. So now I'm lying? Her voice shot up instantly. You always have something to say. You think you know everything, but you don't do anything right. I wasn't. Just fix it, she said, waving me off. I can't deal with this attitude today. My chest tightened. Sometimes it felt like my existence was one long inconvenience to her. Junior came out of his room, shirt tucked in, looking perfect. Good morning, Mom. Her whole face softened. Morning, baby. Come eat. I watched the interaction quietly, the difference in tone, the affection she reserved for everyone except me. It wasn't jealousy. It was confusion. Why was love something I had to earn, while it came so easily to everyone else? My mother turned to me again, eyes scanning me like she was looking for something else to complain about. Why is her hair taking so long? You're always so slow, Amara. Always. I'm almost done, I said. Almost. Always almost with you. Never finished. The words slid under my skin like they belonged there. She turned away but kept talking. You're the oldest. Start acting like it. Your cousins your age are excelling. Some already moved out. Some are married. Meanwhile, you're dragging your feet like life is waiting on you. I kept braiding my sister's hair even though my hands had started to shake. "Okay," I whispered. My mother wasn't done. "Honestly, sometimes I feel like you're more of a burden than a help. I shouldn't have to be stressed because of you." That one hit hard. Because in this house, stress was the currency we all lived on. And somehow, I was always the one blamed for being the reason it existed. I finished the braid. My sister got up quietly. I washed the dishes, swept the kitchen, packed their lunches, ironed the last shirts, wiped down the counter. Nobody thanked me. Not my siblings, not my mother. Not once. When they finally walked out the door, loud and rushed and unbothered, the house fell silent. I stood there in the empty kitchen, hands shaking just a little, heart beating just a little too fast. And even though it was barely 7 a.m., I was exhausted down to my bones. But this was only the first layer. The morning shift of a life where I never got clocked out. And deep down, some part of me already knew. Things were going to get worse before they ever got better. I barely had time to breathe before I heard my mother again. "Amara!" Her voice carried through the walls like something she enjoyed throwing. I stepped out of the hallway, still drying my hands on a small towel. "Yes, Mom." She stood in the living room with her arms crossed, staring at the clutter on the coffee table. My siblings' homework, 3 mismatched cups, a half-eaten snack wrapper. "Why does this place look like this?" she demanded. "You've been up since dawn. What exactly have you been doing?" My stomach dropped a little. "I was cooking and ironing and helping the kids get ready," she cut in with a laugh that wasn't funny. "Excuses, excuses, excuses. You think people care why you didn't get something done? You're supposed to stay ahead, not fall behind." I didn't fall behind. "Amara." She drew out my name like a warning. "Don't start." My mouth closed immediately. I knew that tone. That was the tone that meant anything I said next would become a new weapon for her to use. Before I could move, there was a knock at the door. My mother opened it and greeted our neighbor, Miss Carroll, the type of woman who always dressed like she was going somewhere important, even at 7:30 a.m. "Oh, hey girl," Miss Carroll said. "I brought your pan back." My mother took it, smiling politely. Then, loud enough for the whole hallway to hear, "Don't mind the mess in here. You know how teenagers are. If I don't yell at Amara every morning, nothing gets done." My heart tightened. I stood there frozen in front of both of them. Miss Carroll gave a small, awkward chuckle. "Ah, well, kids can be a lot." My mother laughed like it was hilarious. "She's the oldest, but you wouldn't know it. This girl moves like she's 60. I keep telling her, act responsible." I wanted to disappear. I had cleaned every room that morning. I had woken up before everyone else. I had done everything right. But none of it mattered. My mother didn't even glance in my direction as she said it, like I wasn't a person standing there. Like I was a broken appliance she was complaining about. Miss Carroll offered a polite smile and left. The door shut. And my mother turned to me with a different expression. Cold. Sharp. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked. "You embarrassed me," I said quietly. "Oh, I embarrassed you?" She stepped closer. "Did you clean this table before she came?" "No. You want to blame me for your laziness?" "It's not laziness," I whispered. "I was just what? Tired? Overwhelmed?" She mocked the words like they were a joke. "You're young. You shouldn't even know the meaning of tired." Her words twisted something inside me, because I felt tired every day, every hour, every minute. "Pick up this living room," she said, "and stop glaring at me. You should be thanking me for teaching you responsibility." She walked away. I didn't move. Not at first. I just stood there with my hands trembling, staring at the same room I'd already cleaned twice today. My sister passed by and whispered. She didn't mean it, but she did. Every word, every tone, every moment, and nobody ever called her out. Later that afternoon, things got worse. My mother insisted I walk with her to the corner store to pick up groceries. Even though I still had laundry piled up, dishes soaking, and my siblings had already undone half the cleaning, we walked in silence until we got inside. The cashier, Mrs. Duncan, smiled at us. "Well, hey, Miss Johnson. And Amara," she said warmly. "You growing up fast, huh?" My mother scoffed instantly. "Growing up?" she said. "This girl, please, she moves like she has bricks tied to her feet. If she could be useful for once, I might sleep at night." Mrs. Duncan blinked, clearly uncomfortable. "Oh, well, she looks like she helps out." My mother cut her off. "Helps out? She can barely keep the house together. I don't know what I'm going to do with her." My face burned. I wasn't even sure if I felt anger or shame or both. I tried to force a smile, but my throat felt tight, like I couldn't swallow. Mrs. Duncan glanced at me, sympathy all over her face. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "you doing okay?" Before I could answer, my mother clicked her tongue. "She's fine. She just likes to act like the world is on her shoulders. If she did her chores right the first time, we wouldn't be so behind." I felt my eyes sting. "Mom," I whispered, "please don't." "Don't what?" She turned fully toward me, voice sharp enough to cut skin. "Don't tell the truth? Don't embarrass you? You embarrass yourself when you don't do what you're supposed to." People in the store were starting to look. Someone in aisle 3 paused, staring. My mother noticed them, and instead of stopping, she raised her voice. "Honestly, I don't know how my own daughter became such a disappointment." Something broke. Right there. Between the cereal aisle and the checkout counter, something cracked open inside me. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stood there, absorbing every blow in silence like I always did. Because if I spoke back, she would find a way to make that my fault too. When we finally left the store, my mother didn't look at me, and I realized for the first time that no matter how much I tried, nothing I did would ever be enough for her. Nothing. That night, lying in bed, her words replayed again and again. Disappointment, lazy, slow, burden. The labels she stuck on me felt permanent, like tattoos I never agreed to. But something else was growing underneath the pain. A tiny spark of anger. A tiny thought I hadn't allowed myself to consider before. What if I didn't stay? I woke up the next morning with a headache sitting right behind my eyes, the kind that comes from crying quietly into a pillow so no one hears you. But crying didn't change the morning routine. I still had to get up. I still had to cook. I still had to pretend yesterday hadn't happened in the middle of a grocery store aisle. My mother came into the kitchen while I was flipping pancakes, wearing that same expression she always wore early in the morning, irritated, judgmental, and somehow already disappointed in me before I even spoke. "Turn that down," she said, pointing toward the stove. "You're burning them." I lowered the heat even though the pancakes weren't even close to burnt. "I've got it," I said carefully. She raised one eyebrow. "You always got it, until I have to fix it." I kept my eyes on the pan. "Okay. Don't say okay like you're annoyed." She stepped closer. "I don't like your tone." I wasn't sure what tone she meant. My voice barely had life in it. My sister walked in wearing mismatched socks again. "Amara," she said quietly, "I can't find my math homework." I swallowed. "It's on the table where you left it last night." "No, it's not." "Then check your backpack." She dumped the entire backpack on the couch, papers spilling everywhere, looking at me like she wanted me to fix it. Before I could help her, my mother snapped. "Amara, why is her homework missing? Why don't you help her stay organized?" I I did, I stammered. She, I don't want to hear excuses, she said. You're the older one, be responsible. My throat tightened so fast it felt like I couldn't get air in. Junior walked in next, dragging his backpack on the floor. Amara, can you tie my shoes? My mother didn't even wait. Of course she can. What else is she doing? She needs to make herself useful somehow. Useful? That word hit harder than the rest. Like I wasn't a daughter, just a tool. I tied his shoes, helped my sister find her homework, finished breakfast, packed lunches, all while my mother kept walking back and forth, pointing out everything wrong. You missed a spot wiping the counter. Why is her collar crooked? Are you deaf? I said turn the stove off. Don't roll your eyes. Who do you think you are? I wasn't rolling my eyes, but she saw whatever she needed to see to justify her anger. By the time they all ran out the door, I felt like my bones were shaking from the inside. And then came the moment I dreaded every day. The moment the door closed behind them, the silence. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, loud, accusatory. It made all her words echo even louder. Lazy, slow, disappointment, burden. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the same counter I had cleaned 5 times that morning, and for the first time, I felt something inside me slip. Something small, but important. Something like hope. Hope that things might get better one day. Hope that she might see me. Hope that if I worked harder, she might one day say she was proud of me. That piece of hope broke, like a tiny thread snapping under too much weight. That afternoon, my mother called me into the living room. She was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed, her mouth set in a sharp line. Sit, she said. I sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped tightly. She didn't look at me when she spoke. I'm tired, Amara. My heart sank. I knew where this was going. You make everything harder, she said quietly. I don't understand why you can't do simple things without me nagging. I'm trying, I whispered. I really am. She shook her head. No, you're not. If you were trying, I wouldn't be this stressed. She finally looked at me, and the disappointment in her eyes made my stomach twist. You think I enjoy yelling? She asked. You think I like being the bad guy? I'm like this because you don't help me. You don't support me. You don't care how I feel. My heart broke in a completely different way, because it didn't matter that I woke up every day before sunrise. It didn't matter that I kept the house running. It didn't matter that I was doing everything she asked. She had rewritten the story in her head until I was the villain, and she was the victim. Say something, she demanded. You just sit there looking sad. I'm pouring my heart out and you're acting cold. My voice cracked. I'm overwhelmed, she scoffed. Overwhelmed? At your age? Please. What do you even have to be overwhelmed about? You live in this house for free. You eat food you didn't pay for. And I'm the one who should be overwhelmed? Tears filled my eyes as quietly as they could, and that made her angrier. There you go again, she said, crying to manipulate me. You want me to feel guilty? You want me to be the bad mother? Her voice kept rising, words layering over each other like blows. I swear, I don't know what I did wrong with you. Maybe I was too soft. Maybe that's why you're like this. Sensitive, emotional, weak. Weak. That word finally broke something clean inside me. It was like a door inside my chest slammed shut. I didn't respond, because responding meant opening myself to another attack. I just sat there, letting tears slip down my cheeks silently. She stared at me for a long second. Then she stood up and walked out of the room, leaving me alone on the couch with nothing but the echo of her final words. You'll understand one day, when life breaks you too. I put my face in my hands and cried, Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly, the way I'd learned to, because crying loud only made things worse. Crying quiet was safer. And that afternoon, sitting on that couch, one truth settled into my bones. I was never going to be enough for her, no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, and somewhere deep in the corner of my heart, a new thought whispered back at me, soft but fierce. You don't have to stay. The breaking point didn't come like thunder. It came like everything else in that house always came. Quietly at first, then all at once. It was a Thursday evening, the kind where the air feels too thick, like the whole world is waiting for something to snap. I had just finished vacuuming the living room when my mother walked in from work, dropped her purse on the couch, and looked around like she was searching for something to be disappointed in. "What's that smell?" she said immediately. "It's dinner," I answered. "I made baked chicken and vegetables." She sniffed the air again. "Well, it doesn't smell good." My shoulders stiffened. I'd been cooking since 4. I'd cleaned rooms, folded clothes, helped with homework, and still managed to get dinner ready on time. But all of that disappeared under 6 words. It doesn't smell good. My brother and sister were seated at the table eating quietly. They looked up at me, waiting for my reaction. I didn't react. I didn't have the energy to. I just said, "I can re-season it if you want." My mother scoffed. "You're always fixing things. Why don't you just get them right the first time? Lord knows I try. I try so hard with you." My jaw tightened. "I did everything you asked today. Don't start." She waved a hand in the air like she was shooing away my words. "You think cooking and cleaning makes you a saint? You think you're special because you do chores?" "No," I said quietly. "I don't think I'm special." "Well, good," she snapped, "because you're not." The words hit me like a physical shove. She didn't stop. "You walk around here acting like you're the only one who struggles. Life hasn't even started for you yet, and you're already acting tired." I swallowed. "I'm not acting tired, I am tired." "Tired from what?" She laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "From living here rent-free? From breathing? Honestly, Amara, your generation is so soft." I felt something in my chest twist painfully. "Mom," I whispered, "I do everything in this house. Everything." She turned toward me slowly, like those words were gasoline on a fire. "Everything? Everything? Did you really just say that to me?" I froze. "You want to act grown," she said, stepping closer, "but you can't even handle simple responsibilities without complaining." "I wasn't complaining," I said. "I was trying to talk to you." "And I'm telling you," she said, her voice rising, "that I am tired of you acting like a victim. If I didn't push you, you'd be nothing in this world." My throat tightened so hard it hurt. She wasn't finished. "You're lucky you even have a roof over your head. You're lucky I take care of you. Other mothers would have given up on a daughter like you." "A daughter like you. A daughter like you. A daughter like you." The phrase kept ricocheting inside my skull. My sister looked down at her plate. My brother sighed and kept chewing. No one said anything. No one ever did. My mother kept going. "You know what?" she said. "Sometimes I feel like I failed. Because look at you. Emotional, slow, always overwhelmed. I should have raised you tougher. Maybe then you wouldn't be such a burden." It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I felt myself trembling, not from fear, but from something else entirely. Something that had been building quietly inside me for years. Something I had pushed down so deep I almost forgot it was there. Anger. Not loud anger. Not violent anger. Just a small, fiercely honest flame. I set the dish towel down slowly. "Mom," I said, voice barely above a whisper, "I can't keep doing this." She frowned. "Doing what?" Helping your family? Being useful? Oh, I'm so sorry your life is so hard. This isn't helping, I said. My voice cracked. This is killing me. She blinked, surprised. Then her expression hardened. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I said. Tears blurred my vision. I can't breathe in this house anymore. You're ungrateful, she snapped. You hear me? Ungrateful. After everything I sacrificed. I stepped back. What have you ever sacrificed for me? My voice trembled, but I didn't back down. You've spent my whole life calling me slow, lazy, a disappointment. Because you are, she shouted. My siblings froze at the table. Silence swallowed the room. Her chest heaved. My hands shook. A tear slipped down my cheek. Then another. And another. My mother scoffed like my tears offended her. Oh, here we go again, she said, crying, manipulating, playing the victim. Do you think tears will make me feel bad? Do you think crying will change the truth? Mom, I said softly, you don't even like me. That stopped her. For 1 second. Then she lifted her chin. I don't have to like you, she said coldly. I have to raise you. I felt something deep inside me break. Cleanly, quietly. Finally. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just turned around, walked down the hallway, and closed my bedroom door. Not gently, but not hard either. Just final. That night, while the house slept, I packed my bag. A few clothes, my wallet, my school papers, a little photo of me and my siblings from years ago, back when things were easier. Or maybe I just didn't know better. I placed $200 in an envelope and wrote one sentence. For the bills. I'm sorry. My hands shook as I left the note on the kitchen counter. When I stepped outside, the night air hit my face like freedom and fear mixed into one breath. For the first time in my life, I walked away. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because if I did, I might have stayed. And staying would have destroyed me. The first night I left home, I didn't feel free. I felt suspended. Like I was floating somewhere between terror and relief. Not sure which one would swallow me first. I stayed with my friend Kiara, the only person I trusted enough to tell a half-truth to. She didn't ask for details. She just opened the door, pulled me into a hug, and said, "Girl, you can stay here as long as you need." I cried into her shoulder longer than I meant to. The next morning, Kiara went to work, and I sat alone on her couch, staring at my bag on the floor. I had nothing. No plan, no job, no money except for what was left in my pocket. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt new. Strange. Like it belonged to me. I pulled out my old laptop, cracked, slow, dying, and opened job listings. Retail, customer service, warehouse work. Every application asked for experience I didn't have or hours I couldn't handle. But I kept applying because what else was I going to do? By the end of the day, I'd sent out 23 applications. No one replied. The next morning, I forced myself up early and walked to the bus stop with a folder full of resumes printed on thin, cheap paper. I spent the whole day going from store to store. Are you hiring? No, sorry. Do you take walk-in applications? Not right now. Can I leave my resume? You can, but we're not looking. By lunchtime, my feet hurt so bad I wanted to cry. A manager at a clothing store looked me up and down and said, "You don't really have the kind of experience we're looking for." "I can learn," I said. She smiled without smiling. "I'm sure you can. Unfortunately, that's not enough." I walked out, the door chiming behind me, and for a moment I felt that old, familiar sting. The one my mother drilled into me so deeply I still carried it. You're not enough. I shook my head quickly, as if trying to scatter her voice out of my skull. Not here. Not now. 3 days passed. Still nothing. I started washing dishes at a small diner for cash. Not ideal, but at least it was something. It was during one of those shifts that the idea first formed. Not fully, not clearly, just a flicker of something that wasn't pain, ambition. The diner played the local news on a small dusty TV mounted above the soda machine. The anchor was talking about a scholarship program for young professionals. Competitive, prestigious, but life-changing. My heart skipped. Scholarship, training, career placement, a way out of minimum wage survival, a path. I dried my hands on my apron and stared up at the screen like it was speaking directly to me. The program was huge, the kind that launched people into internships with high-end companies, tech firms, financial institutions. People who won that scholarship didn't go backward. They didn't get stuck. They didn't end up trapped in kitchens being called slow or lazy. They went somewhere, somewhere far, somewhere safe. I wrote down the application link on a napkin with a borrowed pen. That night, when I got back to Kiera's place, I sat on the bedroom floor and opened the website. Requirements, personal statement, resume, letters of recommendation, writing sample, portfolio of achievements. I stared at the list, heat rising behind my eyes. Letters of recommendation? From who? My mother? My resume was a mix of house chores and small gigs. My personal statement? I didn't even know where to begin. What achievement was I supposed to list? Survived emotional warfare for 18 years? My chest tightened. I closed the laptop and put my head in my hands. I wanted to give up. I wanted to believe my mother was right, that I wasn't built for anything more. But then I remembered something she said the night I left. You're going to be nothing in this world without me. And those words, the same ones that crushed me, suddenly ignited something. A spark, a refusal, a quiet, determined no. I opened the laptop again. If the scholarship wanted a personal statement, I would write one. If I needed recommendation letters, I would ask teachers from high school. If they wanted achievements, I would build them. Even if it killed me, because staying where I came from, being who she said I was no longer an option. The next few weeks were brutal. I balanced the diner job with online classes, training modules, writing workshops. I practiced interview questions with Kiera. I rewrote my essay 15 times. I emailed teachers I hadn't spoken to in years. I built a small digital portfolio from scratch. Some nights I was so tired I fell asleep at the table. Some mornings I woke up with my head on my laptop. But it wasn't the same kind of tired I felt at home. This tired had purpose, a direction. It was the first time exhaustion didn't feel like punishment. It felt like progress. And slowly, very slowly, things shifted. A small win here. Yes, we'd love to interview you there. A teacher replying warmly with a recommendation letter. A diner customer tipping big and telling me I looked too smart for this place. Tiny affirmations. Tiny reminders that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't what my mother said I was. And then came the email. The one with the subject line, interview invitation, summer scholarship program. My heart stopped. My hands shook. I opened it. Everything inside me lit up at once. I got an interview. I actually got an interview. This is it, I whispered. This is my chance. I didn't know it yet, but this interview would change everything. It was where I would meet him. The billionaire who would eventually change my life in ways I could never predict. But that part, that comes later. Right now I had a fighting chance. Something I'd never had before. And for the first time in my life, I wanted something. For myself. Not for survival. Not for obligation. Not for someone else's approval. For me. The day of the interview felt unreal. Not magical. More like standing at the edge of a cliff with no railing. I woke up before my alarm, heart pounding like I'd just run somewhere. I put on the only professional outfit I owned. A black blazer Kiara loaned me and the cleanest pair of slacks I had. I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. I didn't look like someone interviewing for a scholarship that could change her whole life. I looked like someone pretending she belonged, but pretending was all I had. The building where the interviews were held was the kind of place you see on TV. All glass, marble floors, air conditioning that hits you instantly. Even the security desk looked expensive. "Kiara," I whispered as we stepped inside, "I don't think I should be here." "Yes, you should," she said. "Girl, look around. Half these people probably got dropped off by their parents. You walked here out of pure willpower. You belong more than any of them." I wished I believed that. Dozens of applicants were seated in the lobby, mostly college kids, clean-cut, confident, tapping their feet or scrolling on their phones. They looked like they'd trained their whole lives for this. I swallowed hard and signed in with the receptionist. "Take a seat," she said with a polite smile. I sat near the corner, holding my folder so tight my knuckles turned white. One of the applicants, a girl with sleek hair and expensive heels, glanced my way and whispered to her friend, "Who shows up to an interview in Palos Flats?" Heat rushed to my cheeks. I looked down at my shoes. Kiara leaned toward me, whispering fiercely, "Don't you dare fold into yourself right now. You worked for this." Before I could respond, someone walked into the lobby and changed the entire atmosphere. A wave rippled through the room. A hush. A shift of posture. A collective straightening of backs. People stood. Some whispered. Some tried not to stare. I didn't even need to ask who he was, because he didn't walk like a normal person. He walked like someone who owned the floor beneath him. Tall, tailored suit, clean lines, controlled expression. Michael Lawson, the 29-year-old billionaire the scholarship program was partnered with. A household name. The kind of man who founded a tech company at 20 and turned it into an empire before he could legally rent a car. I had seen his face online before, but seeing him in person felt different, intimidating, sharp, impossible. He scanned the room as if he was assessing everyone at once. His gaze passed over dozens of applicants. And then, for half a second, it caught on me. Just 1 second. But it felt like he saw straight through me. My clothes, my fear, my background, the exhaustion I carried like a second skin. I blinked quickly and looked away. No way was I holding eye contact with a billionaire. He walked over to the receptionist and said something. Quietly, then disappeared behind the frosted glass doors. The room exhaled once he was gone. One applicant whispered, "If he interviews us himself, I'm doomed." Another said, "No, they said he only judges the final round." I didn't know what to think. I just knew my heart wouldn't slow down. When my name was finally called, Amara Johnson, I felt my legs go numb. Kiara squeezed my hand. "Go knock them dead." I nodded, even though I felt like I was going to pass out. The interview room was bright, modern, cold. Two panelists sat behind a long table, a woman with glasses and a neatly dressed man who looked like he'd been doing this for 20 years. "Good morning," the woman said. "Have a seat." I sat, back stiff, folder in my lap. They asked everything. Why this scholarship? What drives you? What obstacles have you faced? What do you want for your future? I answered each one carefully, honestly, trying not to let my voice shake. But then the man asked, "What's your support system like?" My stomach dropped. My mother's voice flashed through my head. "You're a burden. You're slow. You make everything harder." I forced a steady breath. "I've learned to be my own support system," I said. "Not because I don't want help, but because sometimes you don't have anyone to lean on. and that pushes you to grow. The woman with glasses nodded slowly, almost with empathy. The interview continued. I thought it went okay. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay. The moment I stepped out of the room, I wasn't looking where I was going, which is why I bumped into someone. Hard. My folder slipped from my hands, papers scattering across the hallway. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I dropped to my knees instantly, scrambling for the pages. A deep voice above me said, "It's all right. Here." I looked up. Michael Lawson, the billionaire himself. Kneeling beside me, handing me my resume like it wasn't worth less than the pen in his pocket. My breath caught. He glanced over one of the pages before giving it to me. "You have a strong story," he said. My heart stumbled. "You read?" He lifted a brow. "You dropped it in front of me. I had about 6 seconds." My cheeks heated. "I didn't mean to bump into you," I said quickly. "You didn't," he replied. I stepped out too fast. He held out his hand. I hesitated for half a second before taking it. His grip was warm, firm. When I stood, he said, "Good luck with your interview results." Thank you," I managed. He gave the faintest, almost imperceptible smile before walking away. And I stood there, breath uneven, folder pressed against my chest like a shield. I had no idea what that moment meant. Not yet. But later, I would look back at it as the moment my life quietly shifted. The moment two worlds brushed against each other. One mine, one his, and refused to separate. 2 weeks after the interview, I got the email that changed everything. "Congratulations, you've advanced to round 2 of the scholarship selection process." I stared at the screen for a full minute, blinking, shaking, rereading it over and over. "Amara!" Kiara shouted from the kitchen. "You good?" I could barely breathe. "Kara?" "I made it. I got in." She came running, screamed loud enough to shake the walls and wrap me in a hug. "Girl, I told you. I told you they'd see your potential." For the first time in a long time, I felt something bright crack open in my chest. Hope. But the brightness didn't last long. The second round wasn't just an interview, it was a full month of training challenges, workshops, presentations, and deadlines. They sent a schedule that looked like it had been designed to crush anyone who wasn't committed. I wasn't intimidated. I was determined. From day one, it was intense. There were about 30 of us in the second round. Everyone looked polished, confident, prepared, except me. Some came from private schools. Some were finishing college. Some had internship experience at companies I could barely pronounce. All I had was grit. And half the time, grit didn't feel like enough. The first workshop was a group project. We had to develop a pitch for a mock tech company in under 3 hours. My group was challenging. A girl named Lila took over everything. A guy named Brennan kept interrupting every suggestion I made. "We should consider user accessibility." "Yeah, but that's not the priority," he said, waving me off. I wasn't finished. "You can add that later." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I wasn't new to being dismissed. But it still stung. Still triggered the part of me that lived 18 years being told I wasn't enough. At the end of the session, Lila said, "Maybe next time you can speak louder? You're kind of quiet. Hard to take leadership seriously when you sound unsure." I nodded, even though I had spoken loud enough, even though she'd interrupted me 3 times. Old habits. Accept, accommodate, shrink. But something changed in the second workshop. We were given analytical case studies. People panicked, struggled, froze. Me? I thrived. Numbers made sense. Problems made sense. People didn't. But problems did. I solved everything faster than half the room. The instructors started noticing. One woman leaned over my desk and whispered, "This is excellent work, Amara." The praise landed gently, and then painfully, because I couldn't remember the last time someone said something good about me without it being followed by a criticism. I pushed that thought down and kept working. 3 days later, I saw him again. Michael Lawson. It was during a networking event the scholarship program hosted. Everyone else was buzzing around the room, trying to impress the mentors and executives. I stood near a table pretending to study the catering menu so I wouldn't look awkward. Then someone stepped beside me. "You're not going to try the hors d'oeuvres?" I looked up. Him. Up close, he seemed even more composed, like someone who carried millions of dollars of decisions inside his pockets. I swallowed, straightened my spine. "Oh, I wasn't sure if they were free." "They're free," he said with a small smile. "And they're terrible." A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. He tilted his head slightly, studying me. "You're in the second round, right?" "Yes," I said. "Barely." He raised an eyebrow. "Barely? You seem more prepared than most." A strange warmth tugged at my chest. "Thank you. I'm trying." "Trying isn't the word I'd use," he said. "You carry yourself like someone who's had to fight for every step." My breath hitched a little. He wasn't wrong. "That's accurate," I said softly. He nodded, like he understood more than he should have. Before I could say anything else, one of the program directors called him over. "Duty calls," he said. "Good luck this month, Amara." "Thank you," I replied. He walked away. And even though it was brief, the conversation stayed with me for hours, not because he was rich or powerful, but because he spoke to me like a real person. Not like a burden, not like a disappointment. Just a person. But the deeper I went into the program, the more guilt clawed its way up inside me. Every achievement reminded me of the voice I still couldn't erase. "You're nothing without me. You make everything harder." I don't know what I did wrong with you. I'd be working on a presentation and suddenly hear her in my head. I'd get praise and feel false for accepting it. I'd write something good and immediately fear someone would find out I wasn't as capable as the others. Guilt is strange. It doesn't need a reason, just a memory. And I had plenty. I told myself not to think about home, told myself I left for a reason, told myself I owed myself this chance. But late at night, lying on the small bed Kiara loaned me, I still wondered, did I abandon them? Was I wrong for leaving? Is Mom okay without me? I pushed the thoughts away. I had to. Because something big was coming. Something that would decide my future. A major project. A high-stakes presentation. A final evaluation. One mistake, and I'd be out. One success, and I'd be free. And in the middle of all that pressure, somehow, thinking of Michael Lawson didn't make things harder. It made them clearer. Because for the first time, someone powerful didn't treat me like I was fragile. He treated me like I was capable. And that tiny shift, that tiny crack in my self-doubt, would matter far more than I realized. The final presentation week felt like it was designed to break people. Every morning started before sunrise. Every night ended long after the building emptied out. The pressure wasn't just heavy. It was constant, pressing into my lungs, into my thoughts, into every part of me that wasn't used to being seen. And the worst part? I was good. Really good. Which meant everyone expected me to keep being good. My team leaned on me harder. Instructors watched me more closely. Even other applicants whispered my name like I was someone worth beating. But inside, I felt myself thinning, stretching, cracking at the seams. By Thursday night, I was the last person in the training center again. A half-eaten granola bar sat untouched beside me. My laptop hummed with heat. My eyes burned like I hadn't blinked in hours. I rubbed my temples, stared at the screen, and whispered to myself, just finish this, just push through. But my chest felt tight, like something invisible had wrapped its hand around my ribs and squeezed. The slide in front of me blurred. I blinked. It blurred again. I forced a breath, then another. But the tightness didn't ease. I pushed the laptop back and pressed my palms to my eyes. Not now, I whispered. Please. Not right now. I didn't cry easily, not loud anyway. I'd spent years training myself to break in silence. But tonight, the silence broke me first. When I finally dropped my hands, I saw movement in my peripheral vision. Someone was standing by the doorway. Amara? Michael. He stepped inside slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should interrupt. I straightened, wiped under my eyes, and forced my voice steady. I'm fine, I said quickly, too quickly. He didn't look convinced. He walked closer, hands in his pockets, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. You're here again, he said. Last one in the building. Again. I just have work to finish. You have a whole team, he countered. I swallowed. Yeah, and they depend on me. He studied me in a way that felt too honest. You look exhausted, he said. I'm okay, I whispered. You're not. The words hit me harder than they should have, because he didn't say it like an accusation. He said it like a truth I wasn't ready to admit. My throat tightened. Everyone else handles the pressure fine, I said. I don't want to be the one who falls apart. Falling apart doesn't make you weak, he replied. It makes you human. I laughed weakly. Human isn't something I've had the luxury of being. His brow furrowed. Amara, who told you that? I didn't answer, because no one had to tell me. My whole life had told me. The way I was raised, the weight I carried, the role I played in a household where love wasn't soft. It was conditional, transactional, given only when convenient. He moved around the table and sat across from me. Look at me, he said gently. I did. People are going to expect things from you your whole life, he said. Some because they admire you, some because they don't respect you, some because they're used to you carrying everything. My breath shook a little. But you, he continued, have to choose which expectations you want to live under. Not all of them deserve your energy. My chest tightened again, but this time it wasn't from panic. It was from relief. A kind I wasn't familiar with. A kind that felt dangerous because of how deeply it sank into me. Thank you, I whispered. His eyes softened. You don't have to thank me. Just stop carrying everything alone. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure how. He stood, picking up his jacket. Go home, he said quietly. Rest. Your work is strong. You're strong. My eyes burned again. He hesitated for a moment, like he wanted to say more, then stepped away. As the glass doors closed behind him, I exhaled shakily, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel small. I felt seen. It terrified me, because once someone sees you, they have the power to hurt you. But I also felt something else I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I packed my things slowly, my hands still trembling. On the walk home, the night air felt cooler than usual, cleaner, like the world had paused long enough for me to breathe again. But deep inside, one thought lingered. If someone like him believes I'm capable, why can't I believe it too? I didn't know it yet, but this moment, this quiet vulnerability in an empty corporate building, was the beginning of everything that would come after. The rise, the healing, the love, the fall, and eventually, the collapse. But that was still years away. Tonight, all I knew was this. I wasn't alone anymore. 5 years, That's how long it had been since I walked out of my mother's house with a duffel bag and $200. 5 years since I'd cried in hallways, doubted myself every morning, and whispered pep talks into empty rooms. 5 years since the scared, exhausted girl I used to be took one desperate step toward freedom. I almost didn't recognize her anymore. At 23, I had become someone new, someone sharper, more confident, more capable, more mine. I had completed the scholarship program, earned a position at Lawson Tech, and risen fast, much faster than anyone expected. Not because I was lucky, not because I had connections, but because I worked like someone who had nothing to fall back on. Because I didn't. I became the youngest project strategist in the entire company. I led teams twice my age. I pitched ideas in boardrooms that used to terrify me, and people listened. Not out of pity, not out of obligation. Because I was good. Really good. My apartment wasn't big, but it was clean, quiet, and mine. I decorated it slowly. Plants, soft lights, framed prints of things that made me feel whole. I cooked for myself. I slept without fear. I woke up without hearing my name yelled like an accusation. And whenever I got my paycheck, I sent a portion of it home. Always anonymously. Always through prepaid cards or cash transfers. Never signed, never traced. I told myself it was to help my siblings, to keep the lights on, to make sure they had what I never did. But deep down, a part of me still felt responsible for them, still felt guilty for leaving, still felt like I owed them something, even if none of them had ever reached out, even if my mother never once tried to find me. Sometimes the silence hurt worse than the yelling. As for Michael, what started as mentorship slowly became something else, not all at once, not in some dramatic romantic movie way. It was quiet, gradual, built over, late-night strategy sessions, soft questions he didn't ask anyone else, moments where he opened up more than he meant to, ways he looked at me like he was trying to understand the parts of me I never said out loud. We were careful at first. He was my boss's boss's boss. But after I moved to a different division, there was no boundary left except the ones we hadn't acknowledged. We started talking more, meeting for coffee, sharing jokes neither of us told anyone else. He never rushed me, never pushed, never made me feel small. He treated me like an equal even before I believed I was one. And slowly, something bloomed, something steady, warm, dangerously real. By year 5, we were officially together, privately at first, then publicly. And despite my fears, despite the difference in our backgrounds, despite the noise of the world around us, he stayed. But no matter how much I grew, how much I healed, how much I built, there was one part of my life I never touched: home. I never visited, never called, never gave them my number, never asked how my mother was. Every time I thought about it, I felt a tightening in my chest, a suffocating guilt, a fear that I'd fall apart if I opened that door again. So I shut it. Completely. I told myself they were fine. I told myself they didn't want me. I told myself they didn't need me. I told myself a lot of things. Because the truth was too heavy. The truth was that I still loved them. Even her. Even the woman whose voice still echoed in the darkest corners of my mind. I loved her more than she ever loved me. Maybe more than she ever could. And then came the day everything shattered. The day I stood in front of a wall-sized screen at Lawson Tech headquarters, leading the biggest pitch of my career, and fate decided to show me a picture I wasn't ready to see. A picture that would break every part of me I'd spent years rebuilding, because everything I had built, my life, my peace, my career, my healing, was about to collide with the past I thought I'd left behind. I'd never worked harder on anything in my life. The pitch we were delivering that morning was the kind of thing careers were built on, a multi-million-dollar partnership that could push Lawson Tech into an entirely new market. If we nailed it, my team would be locked in for years. If we failed, I didn't let myself think about that. Breathe, Michael said quietly as we stood just outside the glass conference doors. He was in a navy suit, no tie, sleeves slightly rolled like he'd been working all morning. His presence was steady, calm, the opposite of the storm moving through my chest. "I am breathing," I said. "Fast," he replied. "You only do that when your brain is making up disaster scenarios." I gave him a tight smile. "Old habits?" He held my gaze for a moment, then gently tucked a stray curl behind my ear. "You've got this," he said. "You've done the work. You're ready. Let them see what I see." Those words settled deep. I nodded once. "Let's do it." The boardroom was all glass and sharp lines, the kind of space that made you very aware if you belonged or not. Today, I did. Executives lined one side of the long table. A few outside partners filled the rest. Screens on the wall lit up with the Lawson Tech logo and the title of our presentation. I walked to the front with my laptop, connected it to the big screen, and clicked to the first slide. My name appeared in bold at the bottom corner. Lead Strategist, Amara Johnson. I swallowed a surge of emotion. Once upon a time, the only title I had was Burden. Now I was this. "Good morning, everyone," I started, voice steady. "Thank you for being here. My name is Amara, and today I'll be leading you through our proposal for—" As I spoke, I moved through the slides, letting my brain fall into the rhythm I'd practiced 100 times. Market analysis, user data, projected growth, competitive landscape. I knew this material cold. I'd lived inside it for weeks. The more I talked, the calmer I became. Hands steady, voice strong. I caught Michael's expression once. Not the polished public version he wore for the world, but something softer. Pride. That alone could have carried me through the whole presentation. Halfway through, I clicked to the next slide, ready to transition into our product roadmap. That's when it happened. A small notification box popped up in the top right corner of my mirrored screen. Just a tiny rectangle, barely a distraction. At first, my brain skimmed past it, automatically annoyed. We'd turned off everything we could to avoid interruptions. Then my eyes registered the image. A familiar face. My mother's face. In a grainy, washed-out photo, the one from years ago when she used to smile wide for church events. Above it, in bold letters on the news site Preview, "Local community mourns loss of beloved single mother, Marion Johnson, 49." The words hit me like a physical blow. My mouth stopped. My brain stopped. The room kept going. I heard my own voice trail off. Someone shifted in a chair. A pen clicked. The projector hummed. But all I could see were those words. "Local community mourns. Beloved single mother. Johnson. Her. My mother. Dead." Right there on the corner of my presentation, like a glitch in reality. "Amara," someone said. It took me a second to realize one of the executives had spoken. "Is there a problem with the slide?" he asked. I blinked, fingers frozen on the clicker. Michael's gaze snapped to the screen, then to me. In that second, that tiny, suspended second, I knew he understood something was wrong. I forced my hand to move, closed the notification. The photo vanished. But the damage was done. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I swallowed, my throat dry. As I was saying, if we look at the projected user adoption over the next 3 quarters. I tried to keep going. The words were there. The data was there. The script was still in my head. But everything was foggy. My vision tunneled. The room blurred at the edges. I moved to the next slide. My voice cracked mid-sentence. And we believe this positions us as... I stopped again. A quiet, puzzled silence filled the room. Amara, one of the partners said gently, take a moment if you need one. My hand tightened around the remote. I could feel 30 eyes on me, waiting, judging, wondering. I'd worked too hard to fall apart here. I swallowed hard and forced a tight smile. Apologies, I said. Excuse me 1 second. I stepped back from the screen. Michael shifted in his seat like he was about to stand. I shook my head almost imperceptibly. I could do this. I had to do this. My mother was dead. No. No, I didn't know that for sure. It could have been a glitch. Old news resurfaced, a different Johnson. But I knew that photo. I knew that face. And I knew, deep in my gut, that something had ended. Something I'd never get back. My throat burned. I'm fine, I lied. Let's continue. I made it through the rest of the presentation on muscle memory alone. My words were clean. My pacing was measured. My logic was intact. But I wasn't there. I was in a small, cramped kitchen. I was on a worn-out couch. I was in a grocery store aisle hearing her call me a disappointment. I was everywhere, but that boardroom. When the presentation ended, the room broke into polite applause. I pasted on a smile I didn't feel. Excellent work, someone said. Very strong analysis, another added. I couldn't hear them. All I heard was blood rushing in my ears. All I saw was that headline, Single Mother, 49, Gone. As soon as we stepped out of the boardroom, I walked fast. Too fast. Amara, Michael called. I didn't stop. Amara. His tone softened, but there was command in it too. The kind that made people listen. I stopped at the end of the hallway, staring at a blank wall like it had answers. He reached me a second later. What happened in there? He asked quietly. You were fine? And then you weren't. I swallowed hard. Nothing. I'm okay, I said. He gave me a look that said he knew I was lying. Don't do that, he said. Not with me. My phone buzzed in my hand, the notification still sitting at the top of the screen. I turned it over so I didn't have to see it. But I could still feel it. That headline, that photo, that reality. My mother had died, and I hadn't even known she was sick. They couldn't call me. They didn't have my number. I'd left, sent money, but never myself. And now. Before I tell you what I did next, if you're still listening and your chest feels tight right now, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Would you go back home after 5 years if you found out like this? Because the next choice I made changed everything. I didn't make it to the parking garage. I didn't even make it to the elevator. The second the hallway curved out of sight from the boardroom, my legs gave up pretending. I leaned against the cold wall, covering my mouth as if that could hold everything inside. It couldn't. The air rushed out of my lungs in one broken, shuddering exhale. My mother was gone. 5 years of silence, 5 years of distance, 5 years of me convincing myself I didn't need her to see the person I'd become. 5 years of anonymous money transfers. 5 years of pretending I didn't want to call. 5 years of pretending I didn't care. And she left the world without ever hearing my voice again. My hands shook violently. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the wall like I could anchor myself back into my body. Amara. Michael's voice was quiet, but it carried a kind of gravity that made the world pause. I didn't turn. I didn't want him to see me unraveling. Please, I whispered hoarsely. I need a second. Just 1 second. His footsteps approached slowly, carefully, like he knew sudden movement might break me completely. I'm giving you a second, he said softly. But I'm also not leaving you alone like this. I pressed my forehead to the wall. I don't want you to see me like this. I've seen you tired. I've seen you overwhelmed. I've seen you carrying more than anyone should. He paused. You breaking down doesn't scare me. A quiet sound left me, something between a breath and a sob. Everything's fine, I forced out. No, he said gently. It's not. I turned slightly, just enough for him to see my face. His expression changed instantly. The subtle tightening of his brow, the quiet widening of his eyes. Something happened. Not a question. A certainty. I nodded because I couldn't speak. Tell me, he said. I shook my head, choking on the words. The emotions were too big, too tangled, too old. Amara, he said, voice lower now. Look at me. Slowly, painfully, I lifted my head, his eyes locked on mine. Steady, grounding, safe. What did you see on that screen? My throat convulsed. A notification popped up. I whispered. A photo. A headline. Something flickered in his eyes. Concern, understanding, fear of what I might say next. It was my mother, I breathed. He took one step closer, close enough to feel, not close enough to overwhelm. The headline said, I inhaled sharply, trying not to break again. It said she died. Michael's jaw tightened slightly. Amara, I didn't know, I said, the words cracking open. I didn't know she was sick. I didn't know anything. They couldn't call me. They didn't have my number. My voice collapsed completely. Because I never gave it to them. The confession sank between us like a weight. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. My legs couldn't hold me anymore. Michael didn't hesitate. He crouched in front of me, resting his forearms on his knees, eyes never leaving mine. She never had your number because you left, he said carefully. Or because you were hiding? Both truths stung. I swallowed hard. I wasn't hiding from them. I was hiding from who I was there. He nodded once, slow, understanding. I pressed my palms together to stop them from shaking. You don't understand, I whispered. I didn't leave because I hated her. I left because staying was killing me. My voice cracked again. She was all I knew. She raised us alone. She worked herself to the bone. And she was so angry all the time. At life. At the world. At me. Michael didn't look away. I tried. I continued. I tried so hard to be enough. To be useful. To be good. But nothing I did ever made her look at me with anything but disappointment. Tears burned down my cheeks. I wasn't a daughter to her. I was labor. A second parent. A punching bag. A place to put all her frustration. A sob wrenched from my chest. Small, but devastating. And the worst part? I whispered. I still loved her. Even when she broke me. Even when she called me weak. Even when she made me feel like breathing was a burden. Michael's lips pressed into a pained line. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, shaking. I sent money home for years. Every month. Because I wanted them to be okay. Because I couldn't face them, but I couldn't abandon them either. My voice dropped to a trembling whisper. And now she's gone. And I wasn't there. And she didn't know. I covered my face. She didn't know I became someone. She didn't know I made it. Silence stretched, but not empty. Warm. Understanding. Patient. Michael reached out, then paused mid-air, waiting for permission. I nodded. He touched my hand, gently, like it was something fragile and precious. You didn't kill her, he said. You didn't abandon her. You saved yourself. And that doesn't make you a bad daughter. I sobbed again, quieter, deeper. It feels like it. No, he said firmly. It feels painful. It feels complicated, but it doesn't mean you were wrong. He shifted, sitting beside me against the wall. You deserve love that doesn't destroy you, he murmured. Something inside me broke open completely. Not like shattering, but like release. Years of guilt, fear, shame, all tangled and festering, finally rising to the surface. I don't know how to go back, I said. You don't have to know today, he whispered, but you should go. If not for her, then for yourself. I closed my eyes and breathed shakily. I'm scared. I know. And I don't know what they'll say. I know. And I don't know. If I'll fall apart when I see them. He turned his head gently toward me. You can fall apart, he said. I'll help you put the pieces back together. My breath hitched, not because he said something romantic, but because he said something true. I leaned my head against my knees. Okay, I whispered. Michael rested his hand lightly on my back, steady, warm, solid. Whenever you're ready, he said, I'll book the flight. And for the first time since seeing that obituary, I didn't feel alone. I hadn't been back to that neighborhood in half a decade. 5 years of silence, 5 years of guilt, 5 years of pretending that the past wasn't a shadow still clinging to my heels. But as the Uber turned onto my old street, something inside me tightened so hard it felt like a fist around my ribs. Everything looked the same. The cracked sidewalks, the leaning mailboxes, the chipped paint on the houses, the sagging roofs. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to look different, or if the sameness hurt more. When the car stopped in front of my childhood home, I couldn't move. The house was smaller than I remembered, more tired, windows dull, grass overgrown, like it had aged with my mother, like it missed her. My hands trembled in my lap. Do you need me to go with you? Michael asked softly from the seat beside me. I shook my head. No, I need to do this alone. But his presence calmed me. Just knowing he was there, waiting, gave me strength to take the next breath. I stepped out of the car, my legs unsteady. The air smelled like the same old mixture of dust, humidity, and someone grilling 2 streets over. A memory hit me so hard I had to close my eyes. My mother yelling from the doorway, my siblings running down the street. Me, breathless, arms full of groceries I carried home alone. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat and walked to the front door. I knocked once, then twice. My heart hammered against my ribs. Footsteps. The door opened. For a moment, neither of us spoke. My little sister, not so little anymore, stood in the doorway. She was taller, sharper in the face, older in the eyes. But I would have known her anywhere. She froze when she saw me. Amara. Her voice was breathless, disbelieving. I nodded. She covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God. Before I could react, she threw her arms around me. The force of it nearly knocked me back. I stiffened. Reflex. Then slowly wrapped my arms around her. She clung to me like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. You're really here, she whispered into my shoulder. I can't believe you came. Her voice cracked. She started crying, and suddenly, painfully, I realized she wasn't angry. She wasn't resentful. She was relieved. When she finally pulled back, her face was wet. We didn't know if you were alive, she whispered. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you? Her sentence broke. I swallowed hard, guilt burning my throat. I didn't know how, I said. I didn't know if you wanted me. She shook her head fiercely. We always wanted you. Always. Before I could respond, another voice came from behind her. Well, look who finally decided to show up. My brother. Older now, jaw tense, eyes guarded, but not cruel, just hurt. Marcus, I breathed. He stepped forward, crossing his arms. You left, he said. Not yelling, not accusing, just stating the truth. I nodded. I know. You didn't call. I know. You didn't write. You didn't show up for birthdays. You didn't. His voice broke slightly. You were gone, Amara. Completely gone. I blinked hard, forcing back fresh tears. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. I thought you guys didn't need me anymore. Marcus scoffed, but it wasn't sharp. It was pained. We needed you more than ever. My chest tightened. I sent money, I said helplessly. Every month. I tried to help. We know. He cut in. I froze. You knew? He nodded slowly. We kept getting those cards. The cash. Mom always said it was a blessing from God, but his eyes softened. We knew it was you. My mouth fell open. But none of you reached out. He looked down at his hands. We didn't have your number. And he hesitated. Mom wouldn't let us ask around. A sharp, aching silence stretched between us. She didn't want us contacting you, he continued quietly. She said, if she wants to be gone, let her be gone. The words stabbed through me. My lips trembled. Was she... I swallowed hard. Was she angry at me? Marcus looked up, and for the first time since I arrived, I saw grief in his eyes. No, he said softly. She wasn't angry. I frowned. Then why... She was ashamed. I blinked, confused. Ashamed of what? Of how she treated you. My breath caught. Marcus continued, voice thick. She realized too late that she'd put everything on you. All her stress, all her fear, all her frustration. And when you left, she thought she ruined you. She thought you'd never forgive her. My chest shattered all over again. She kept your room exactly the way you left it, my sister whispered. She told people you were away for work. She never once said you ran. I felt the air leave my lungs. My mother had protected me, even after everything. I looked past them, into the house I hadn't stepped into for half a decade. It smelled faintly like lemon cleaner, like she still lived here. Marcus wiped his eyes quickly. She got sick fast. We didn't even know how bad it was until... He paused. She kept asking for you at the end, even though she said she didn't want us to pressure you. The ground swayed a little beneath me. My sister took my hand. She loved you, Amara. She didn't know how to show it. But she loved you. I broke. Right there in the doorway. My knees buckled and Marcus caught my shoulders. I sobbed into my hands, not quietly, not restrained, but deeply, painfully, like 5 years of guilt and grief were pouring out all at once. I didn't hate her, I cried. I never hated her. We know, my sister whispered. I collapsed into their arms. We missed you, Marcus said. Every day. I held on to them like I was afraid they would disappear too, because for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying everything alone. I didn't realize how long we stood in the doorway, all three of us tangled in that ugly, tearful hug, until my legs started to ache. Come inside, my sister finally whispered. Please. The last time I crossed that threshold, I was leaving like I'd never come back. Now, every step felt like walking into a memory. The house was quieter, smaller, filled with ghosts that looked like old furniture and familiar smells. The living room still had the same sagging couch, the same faded curtains, the same crooked family photo on the wall, the one where my mother's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. My sister swallowed. She kept your room the same. I turned to her. What do you mean? Marcus gestured down the hallway. She didn't let us touch it. Said one day you might come back and she wanted you to know you still had a place here. My heart cracked. I walked slowly down the hall, every creak of the floorboard echoing louder than it should. When I pushed open my old bedroom door, the air shifted. There it was. My bed, my chipped dresser, the old poster on the wall, The blanket I used to wrap around myself when I cried at night. It was like stepping into a time capsule, like the girl I used to be had just paused here, waiting. A folded t-shirt sat at the end of the bed, the same one I'd meant to put away the night I left. She had washed it, folded it, and placed it carefully, like a quiet apology. I sat on the edge of the mattress, my fingers trailing over the faded fabric. She would come in here sometimes, my sister said from the doorway. Just stand and look around. Sometimes she'd sit on your bed and just sit. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, his voice low. One time I heard her talking. He said quietly, I thought she was on the phone, but when I looked, she was in here, alone, saying she was sorry. My throat burned. For what? I asked, barely breathing. They looked at each other. For everything, Marcus whispered. I closed my eyes. Guilt, love, anger, grief. They all blurred together until I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. I should have come back sooner, I said. I should have tried. I should have pushed past my fear. Amara, my sister cut in gently. You were just trying to survive. Marcus nodded. Mom made mistakes, he said. Big ones. She put too much on you. She didn't protect you the way a mother should. But you leaving? That was the first time you chose yourself. We get it now. Tears slid down my cheeks. I loved her, I said, my voice breaking. Even when I hated how she made me feel, I loved her so much it felt like it was killing me. My sister came inside and sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. She loved you too, she murmured. She just didn't know how to show it without hurting you. And by the time she realized it, she didn't know how to fix it. That hurt in a new way, not sharp, not cruel, just sad. We sat there in silence for a while, 3 grown kids in a preserved room that belonged to a girl none of us fully knew anymore. Eventually, Marcus cleared his throat. We're going to the cemetery tomorrow, he said. For the memorial, you can come if you want. My chest tightened. Yeah, I whispered. I want to. That night, I slept in my old bed. The springs creaked the way they always did. The ceiling still had the faint water stain in the corner, shaped like nothing and everything. I lay there in the dark, staring up, listening to the silence of a house without my mother's presence. No footsteps, no muttered complaints, no doors opening and closing. For years, all I wanted was for her voice to stop echoing in my head. Now I would have given anything to hear it one more time. I fell asleep with tears on my pillow. When the dream came, it didn't feel like a dream at first. I was standing in the kitchen, not the polished kitchen of my adult life. This one, the cramped one, the one with the chipped counter and the flickering light. Sunlight streamed through the window, soft and familiar. A pot simmered on the stove, filling the room with the smell of something warm. She was there. My mother. Younger somehow. Not by age, by expression. Less hardened, less tired. Wearing the old t-shirt she used to sleep in on weekends. She didn't look angry, just human. She was washing a plate, back turned. Mom? I whispered. She glanced over her shoulder, eyebrows lifting like I'd called her from the living room. Oh, you're up, she said. Come sit. Her voice wasn't sharp. It wasn't cold. It was calm. I moved slowly, like if I walked too fast she might disappear. I sat at the table. My hands rested on the same faded wood I'd wiped 1,000 times. She turned off the water, dried her hands, and joined me. Up close, I could see the lines on her face, the tired under her eyes, the weight in her shoulders. But beneath all that, something else flickered. Softness. I'm dreaming, I said quietly. Maybe. She gave a small smile. Maybe I'm just in your head. Either way, I'm here. And you're listening. I swallowed hard. I saw your obituary. I know, she said. That's what dragged me back into your thoughts, isn't it? Her words weren't cruel, just honest. My chest ached. I didn't come back, I choked out. I left. I disappeared. You got sick. You died, and She held up a hand. I know what you did, she said softly. I watched you. I frowned. Watched me? As much as a dead woman can. She shrugged lightly. In memories. In the way your siblings talked about you. In the money that kept showing up like a ghost with my daughter's handwriting all over it. My throat tightened. She looked at me. Really looked at me. For what felt like the first time. You think I didn't know it was you? She asked. You think I didn't see my child becoming someone I'd never let myself imagine she could be? Tears filled my eyes. It didn't feel like you saw me when you were alive, I whispered. She winced. I know, she said. I was hard on you. Too hard. Cruel, even. I told myself it was discipline, survival. I convinced myself I was making you strong. Her eyes shimmered. But the truth? She took a sharp breath. The truth is, I was scared. And I took it out on you. I stared at her. Scared of what? Of failing you, she said simply. Of this world chewing you up like it did me. Of raising a black daughter in a country that already decided what she was worth before she could walk. Her voice trembled. I thought if I made you tough, you'd survive. I didn't realize I was asking you to survive me first. A sob burst from my chest. I was a kid. I cried. I was trying so hard. And you made me feel like everything I did was wrong. Her own tears fell now. I know, baby, she whispered. I know. And I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry. The apology I'd been dying to hear for years landed like a fragile thing between us. Why didn't you say it when you were alive? I whispered. Pride, she admitted. Stubbornness. Shame. By the time I understood what I'd done, I didn't know how to open my mouth without choking on regret. She reached across the table. I hesitated, then took her hand. Her skin felt warm, familiar. You left because you had to, she said. I wanted to call you ungrateful, selfish, but deep down I knew I'd pushed you to the edge and then blamed you for jumping. My shoulders shook with quiet sobs. I still left you, I said. And I still hurt you, she replied. We both did what we thought we had to do to survive what we were given. She squeezed my fingers gently. You did good, Amara, she murmured. You made a life. You didn't stay stuck. You chose yourself. I just wish I'd given you that choice without breaking you first. Pain and love crashed inside me. I wanted you to be proud of me, I whispered. I am. Her voice was firm now. I am. I was proud watching you become someone I never gave you permission to be. Tears blurred my vision so fully I could barely see her. If you want to keep hating me, she said quietly, I'll understand. If you want to forgive me, I don't deserve it, but I hope one day you can. My breath shook. I don't hate you, I said. I never did. She smiled sadly. I know. That's what makes this hurt so much. The kitchen light flickered. The edges of the room began to fade. Time's up, she said softly. No, I cried. Wait. Don't go yet. Live, she said, her voice echoing slightly like it was already somewhere far away. Love the people who love you right. Let your siblings love you back this time. Let that man who looks at you like you're his whole sky hold you without feeling guilty. My chest squeezed. And stop punishing yourself with my ghost, she finished. You've carried me long enough. Put me down. The room dissolved. Her hand slipped from mine, and I woke up. I was back in my old bed, Tears soaked my pillow. My chest hurt from crying in my sleep. But for the first time since seeing that obituary, the guilt in my lungs felt lighter. Not gone, but no longer drowning me. I pressed a hand over my heart and whispered into the dark, "I forgive you." And, more importantly, I forgive me too. Morning light streamed through the thin curtains of my childhood room, warming the space just enough to make the air feel alive again. For the first time since I'd stepped back into this house, I didn't wake up with panic in my chest. The dream still clung to me, her voice, her apology, her warmth, but not in a way that crushed me. It felt like closure, like a chapter gently turning its own page. I sat up, wiped my eyes, and breathed in slowly. My mother was gone, but she'd spoken what I needed to hear, and I had said what I needed to say. I didn't know if dreams like that were real or just grief, filling in what life never gave me, but it felt real enough to heal. When I walked into the kitchen, Marcus was at the stove, scrambling eggs, and my sister was sitting on the counter eating cereal straight from the box. They both froze when they saw me, as if worried I'd disappear again. "Morning," I said softly. My sister practically hopped off the counter. "You look lighter," she said. I touched my chest, surprised by the truth of it. "I feel lighter." Marcus flipped the eggs and glanced at me carefully. "Sleep okay?" "I did," I said. "Better than I have in a long time." They exchanged a look, the kind siblings give each other when they're relieved but don't want to push. We ate breakfast together in a silence that wasn't tense, just new, tender. Like we were learning how to be a family without the old wounds dictating every breath. At one point, Marcus cleared his throat. "So, we're glad you came back." My sister nodded emphatically. "So glad. I mean, we didn't think you ever would." I took a deep breath. "I should have come sooner," I said, "but I didn't know how. I didn't know if it was safe for me, or if you even wanted me." Marcus set down his fork. "Amara," he said firmly, "we were kids. We didn't know how to handle any of it, but we always wanted you. We were just scared. Everyone was scared." I nodded slowly, accepting the truth. "It doesn't erase what happened," I said, "but I want to try. With both of you. If you'll let me." My sister burst into tears. Marcus blinked hard and turned away for a second, pretending to adjust the stove dial. "Yeah," he said quietly, "we'll let you." Later that afternoon, we drove to the cemetery for the memorial. The sky was gray, but not cold. The kind of weather that makes everything feel honest. I stood in front of the small headstone, my siblings on either side of me. Marion Johnson, mother, sister, fighter, 1976 to 2025. I traced the letters with my eyes, then closed them. "Hi, Mom," I whispered. Marcus and my sister stepped back respectfully, giving me space. "I know you can't hear me," I said softly, "but I need to say this out loud." The wind moved gently through the trees. "I forgive you," I said. "And I hope wherever you are, you forgive me too." My voice cracked. Tears slid down my cheeks, but they didn't burn this time. They healed. "And thank you," I added quietly, "for trying, for doing what you could with what you had, for loving me in the ways you understood, even if they broke us both." I placed a white lily at the base of the stone. "I'm going to be okay now, I promise." When I stepped back, Marcus wrapped an arm around my shoulder. My sister held my hand. We stood there together, a small family with a history full of fractures, but also resilience. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Michael was waiting outside the cemetery gates when we walked back. He leaned against his car, hands in his pockets, eyes searching for me before anything else. When he saw me, his expression softened. "You good?" he asked gently. I nodded, A real nod, not a brave one. I'm getting there. He opened the passenger door for me, but before I got in, I turned to my siblings. Let's stay in touch this time, I said. I mean it. We will, Marcus said. And this time, I believed him. My sister hugged me so tightly I almost laughed. Don't disappear again, she murmured. I won't. When we finally got in the car, I exhaled slowly. Michael glanced at me. How was it? Hard, I said honestly. But good. Needed. He nodded like he already knew. As we pulled away, he rested a hand on my thigh. Not possessive, not demanding. Just grounding. What are you thinking about? He asked. I looked out the window, watching the neighborhood shrink into the distance. I think... I paused. I think I can finally live the life I built without feeling like I abandoned the one I left. He smiled softly. That's a big step. It is, I said. And I'm ready. His fingers laced with mine. You've done a lot of hard things, Amara, he said. But choosing peace for yourself? That's the bravest. Warmth bloomed in my chest. The kind my mother never gave me. The kind I learned to find in myself. The kind I allowed someone else to share. I leaned my head against the seat, breathing deeply, fully. When we reached the highway, I looked at Michael. Really looked at him. The man who saw me, believed me, and stayed. I think I'm finally done surviving, I said. He squeezed my hand gently. Good, he murmured. Now you get to live. I smiled. Small, real, earned. The type of smile that belongs to someone who fought their way out of a life they weren't meant to stay trapped in. Someone who forgave the past, chose the future, and claimed herself. And as the city skyline came into view, bright and alive, I whispered to myself, this is mine now. Finally. This life is mine. The end. If you felt Amara's journey, leave a heart in the comments. Let's honor every daughter who had to heal without an apology. And if you're new here, subscribe for more life tale stories just like this. Stories that stay with you. We'll see you in the next story.